many of the patients that are overweight and having weight loss problems, from the functional medicine perspective that we take here, we do gastrointestinal evaluations, and when they get markers for yeast or fungus, I know that they must have some dysbiosis or imbalance in their intestinal tract based on yeast.
Right.
And the corollary question is always, do you crave sugars and do you crave carbohydrates? And it's like an aha moment because so much of the blame has been put on them, and I'm like, no, maybe not. Maybe something inside you is craving this nutrient,
right,
and it may not be you yourself. And that's like a releasing factor for people.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe I'm not just the overweight person that can't exercise any self-control. It's not about that. Science has taken us to a whole new level in understanding the gut microbiome and how that actually affects our eating behaviors, which is really powerful stuff.
Well, Dr. Principe, it's really great to be with you and catch up with you in your office. And here we are, Wellbeing MD, that you started. We're coming up on the 5-year anniversary.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that. Maybe I would love to talk about your transition out of conventional medicine into what you currently do now. But for our listeners that may not know what you do now, let's talk about what is Wellbeing MD.
Wellbeing MD was a concept of how to really change people's lives from the basics of foundational about eating well, moving well, and actually living with what I call resilience, which is a response to modern day stress. And my conventional training gave me no skills at actually approaching any of that. And as many people know, or not, maybe aren't aware of that, basic medical schools, at the time I was going to medical school, paid little attention to those particular topics. It was basically disease-based, understanding disease processes, and then being able to treat them. And after 20 years of practice in treating those disease states, that's all I did, was to treat disease states. I never changed any of those disease states. At best, I would put them and delay complications in those disease states. And it's a model that really doesn't allow for change in the human being, change in the relationship between the healthcare, I call them protectors, not providers, because we don't provide health to you. We are, by oath, really, the physician takes an oath of first, do no harm. I should be protecting you as you go along your life's journey. And we didn't do much about that. And so, therefore, I saw this dissatisfaction between the patient and physician relationship. And I always envisioned myself to be almost like the Dr. Welby, that you would sit and almost have a cup of coffee or some healthy beverage and sit down and chat and learn about you, learn about your family, learn about what makes you tick and flick. And that dynamic changes too in modern medicine. The average patient is only allowed 7 minutes of talk time in an office visit, and that's very disconcerting. And so I was pretty dejected by that. I wasn't happy. I really never saw people coming out of the office jumping for joy because they saw the doctor. And I'm like, maybe it's time for a life change.
Yeah.
And so I grew up in a Mediterranean heritage family, and we love food, we love cooking. And I said, maybe there's something to cooking, and maybe I should get out of this and become a chef, because a lot of love, a lot of energy has gone into preparing meals, serving it to people. Most of the meals I've gone to, people are enjoying themselves, there's great conversation, there's intergenerational talk. That's the kind of world I grew up in.
Right.
And I'm like, maybe that's where I need to be. So I took more and more culinary classes, and I was at the point at which I was going to decide to leave medicine and become a chef.
This is 20 years into your career.
20 years into the career, yes. Yeah. And most of my colleagues looked at me and said, "You're crazy.
Sure.
You lost your mind. You need to go see a psychiatrist. That's what you need to do." And I'm like, "No, I am going to do this." So one of my last trips and adventures was going out to the Culinary Institute of America to meet David Eisenberg and Healthy Kitchens, Healthy Lives. Now, mind you, my intention was to go investigate the culinary school. It was not really, to be transformed, as you'll learn in a couple seconds, of how I can change my practice. But David and the people that he has in that program put together those essentials that I talked about. Eating well, moving well, connecting the mind-body, having intention to what you do in life. And I was like, whoa, this is revolutionary. I'm like, I don't need to get out of medicine at all. I can take all my chef-acquired skills and bring them back home and not only transform my life, but start transforming my patient's life. And, to David's credit, I mean, he's been the biggest influence in my life. I just love the man to death, and it's just, we're still good friends. And, I came back with that enthusiasm. And I didn't have this kitchen when I came back. All I had was an idea and a thought of like, okay, this is great. How can I do this? So I started small. I would make things at home, in the home kitchen, bring them into the office, have the recipe adjacent to the little sample, and my patients started, kind of liking this. It's like, oh, there's food samples today at Dr. Principe's office. Yeah. And it got into the point where, people were hungry. They looked like they were hungry for this food, okay? And it was largely plant-based. Okay, it was healthy ingredients. No processed things ever entered that dynamic. And out of that, we created a 6-week program called the Roadmap to Wellness, which teaches those fundamentals. And it was outstanding. I mean, the first course that we had close to 60 people that wanted to sign up for it. And we didn't have this kitchen. Mm-hmm. We had a small little room, and I'm like, okay. The co-chef that was working with me, we would make some of the food at home, transport it in, bring food warmers, whatnot. Whatever we needed to do, we did to make it work. And then class sizes started getting even bigger than that. So we started to go to local community centers and rent space because they had larger kitchens that we could work out of, and did it out there. But it was always this process of having to make food somewhere else and bring it somewhere else. And it's like 2010, this space opened up in this building. And I said to the building owner, I'm like, okay, I said, I'm going to make a leap of faith here, and I'm going to build one of the first teaching kitchens in America in a doctor's office. And he said, well, that's a great idea. And, over the course of, a year, we changed an empty space on a floor here in the office building, and we've created what I call the Wellbeing MD Center for Life. And this is our 5th year in this process. And we not only teach people about food, but we teach them about the life forces that enhance life, movement, and the importance of this mindfulness. The mindfulness that actually motivates people to actually behave the way they do. Because if the heart isn't in the right place, dictating what you're going to be doing with yourself, I don't think you really can sustain long-term behavioral changes, because there's too much scatter out there. There's too much noise out there, and people are confused by it. And what I like to do is simplify it, get back to some very, very basic life skills that I think people need to actually enhance their lives.
Fantastic.
So that's kind of the shortened version of this whole story, but
that's amazing, Dr. John. But I want to kind of step back a little bit and talk about the mindset, because what you did is really kind of revolutionary. I mean, like you said, it's the first teaching kitchen in a doctor's office. Just above us is the patient rooms where people go, and standard, kind of what people would expect a medical clinic to be like.
Right.
Down below you have this kitchen, and what's so unique about this kitchen is you can have the group visits where you show people how to cook. And what you talk about in your in your TED talk is, standard medical, the medical system is really good at like secondary prevention. Once you have a disease, we can quote unquote manage that disease with medication or surgery. But you want to take that back a notch and go back to the primary prevention and prevent the obesity, the hypertension, the diabetes before it starts, which, as you talk about, and I think there's a lot of evidence, starts in the kitchen.
Right.
And that's what's so unique. So you built this kitchen where you can show people how to do that at home.
Right.
But this was a huge leap. So talk about maybe what got you inspired or motivated to even teach people how to cook food. Like, did you realize in your patient visits that people just didn't know how to cook food? Like, talk to us.
I actually think that's, probably a lost skill or art. Mm-hmm. Many of the home economics kind of traditional things that people grew up with in the 40s and 50s have been totally out of educational systems and basic primary education, and people just don't have life skills anymore. They think cooking a meal is pressing a button on a microwave and that's it, voila. So modern times have changed and everything's time-based. Okay, and what we tried to do is actually teach people down here that with some basic knife skills, okay, which anyone can acquire, okay, and some basic cooking techniques, you don't have to live a processed life. You can actually enjoy what you're doing. And for me, the kitchen is a personal meditation. This is my meditation environment. And whether I'm cutting up vegetables or even cleaning dishes, to me that is a meditation, because I become focused on that process. I'm not in a hurry necessarily to complete the task. I look at it as, okay, I have some quiet time now. I can do this. I can be with what I'm doing. And people can learn to do that in their houses, in their homes, with their kids, with their spouses, with their significant others. It's a special time. And in the process, they're creating something that nourishes their body, that both you and I know has much power in just healing so many of the disease processes and actually preventing some of the disease processes. So it's kind of double-edged knife here, that we're talking about. Both disease prevention and significant disease modification. And over the 5 years that I've been practicing with this, I can tell you countless stories of people that have just transformed their whole life based on what happens down here. One man I can think of, for instance, that went through that 6-week course, he did nothing but follow the nutritional advice, which is very simple. And Michael Pollan has said it the best, eat real, eat mostly plants, eat less of it. And I actually add another thing to it, eat it together. Because that community of a family or a group here in the center makes it so much more pleasurable. And all he did was pay attention to what to eat. And in our class, we intersperse, healthy recipes every week. It's largely plant-based, which, is what I love to do, because I think you can do more with plants than any other kind of food source. Yeah. And he could not fit in a regular chair when he entered this program. I had to bring a special chair into the room for him so he could fit size-wise. By the time he was done with the course, he came back for a follow-up visit. I think he had lost 30 or 40 pounds in the 6 weeks. I think the total that he's lost over that time period has been over 100 pounds. And he's kept it off. Now, he's not a big exercise aficionado, okay? But he's become more active because his lifestyle changed based on the food that he's eating and based on the nourishment that he's getting. And his whole life has improved. That kind of power in food is just remarkable.
Right. Something that you probably didn't see prescribing medicine.
I never saw that.
Yeah.
I never saw that. And he's not the only story. They go on and on and on.
Sure.
So food is medicine, as Hippocrates said it so profoundly. The Greeks knew it. That's what I love about, that basis of wellness and a lot of the foundational principles that came from that sort of philosophical bent. And it's just good stuff.
Definitely. There's a big kind of push right now to hack things, right? How to hack your mind so that you can, read books faster, how to do these things. And so I think people are trying to look for shortcuts. But what would you recommend in the kitchen, like how to cook breakfast faster, how to cook to eat fast? I mean, that's not something you want to hack or like circumvent the process. As you talk about, it's kind of a healing in its own right, the cooking process. So
yeah.
Any tips there for people that are like, I don't have time, how can I do it faster? What sort of advice would you offer?
Well, certainly time is really a problem for people, including myself. And so you got to think ahead. You got to plan ahead. You've got to schedule ahead. And I would say that one of the biggest strengths that people that do this well, plan ahead and cook ahead. And so just dedicate a day. It could be Sunday. Sunday used to be, in this country, a day of rest and reflection, and we come from a spiritual practice. It was a way to connect to your spiritual self. We've lost that. We have everything 24 hours, 7 days a week. It's nonstop. We need a day of rest. So if it's going to be Sunday or Saturday or whatever your inclination is to be, take the family and cook together and make meals or make plans ahead so that you have things prepared out for the week. One of the favorite things I like to teach people about breakfast is, and you can use it gluten-free or not gluten-free, but steel-cut oats are a wonderful breakfast option for people to make ahead. You can make a large batch on Saturday or Sunday. You can put it in the refrigerator. It'll keep for a week. And I usually just take a square out every day, mix it with some almond milk, and add some protein source, either some nuts or berries, or that wouldn't be a protein source, but nuts would be, and make it a complimentary meal. Now, if you really wanted to be, add a protein source, you could boil a dozen of eggs up. You get good organic sourced eggs from a farmer that you really like to work with, and they're healthy. Boil a dozen up, and then you've got an egg either for breakfast or lunch. So I think people can be creative, and that's what the beauty of the kitchen is. It allows you to individualize your creativity, your taste buds, what you want. It's not me dictating anything to anybody. And I think if you show people those skills, they will gradually move that stuff into their lives.
That's a great point. What I've found is people need direction. Like we talked about this at dinner before we started recording, is people want to know what to eat. Tell me what to eat, Doc. What's the recipe? What's the plan? But what you encourage, and I think a lot of us, in this wellness space encourage, is you create the diet that works for you. And so what sort of words of wisdom do you have for people to let go of the hard and fast, like kind of, orthodox diet that they need to follow and kind of enable the self-discovery? Any tips for people?
Yeah, first of all, I don't like the term diet, okay?
Yeah.
But the self-prescription, it should begin with how to assess myself prior to the meal. Am I in a good state when I sit down to enjoy this? Now, you and I enjoyed a wonderful meal at a local sustainable restaurant this evening, and we had a lot of conversation even before we began to eat. And that conversation calmed both our sympathetic nervous systems down and engaged the parasympathetic nervous system, a part of our nervous system that allows for good digestion and healing. If you're not eating that way, you've got to think about that first step. If you're grabbing the bag from the convenience at some of these places and running out the door and shuffling in this food in your mouth or eating it while you're driving, you're in a sympathetic state. You're not in a parasympathetic state. You may not be even absorbing some of those whatever nutrients are in that kind of food. So first advice, get yourself into a good state. Second thing is to be mindful while you're eating. Look at what you're eating. appreciate what you put on that plate is extremely important. And I know you know, and your listeners know the science of gratitude and how that puts us in just a better, healthier state. That's really important. And that state of looking at that plate, because I do believe we eat with our eyes. If it looks beautiful, you're going to show a picture of what you ate on your Instagram. Yeah. But if it has that eye appeal, you're going to be engaged with it already. Your salivary secretion of your enzymes are already occurring in your mouth even before you're taking a bite. And I actually like to eat or try to eat slowly. Now, I'm not great at that. Okay, part of it has been my professional training. As doctors, we're always eating on the fly, grabbing a bite here, rushing to do something. We're lucky if we eat, during training. But you got to take that and try to change that behavior. And then as you taste, to get the flavors, the texture, to even smell it, to get the aroma, all of that is so healthy and helps you eat better. So those are the things that people should be assessing pre, during, and then post-eating. How do you feel after you've eaten the meal? Do you feel relaxed? Do you feel energized? Do you feel like, oh my God, I need to get to the bathroom because my irritable bowel is acting up, okay? So assess yourself. And with that self-assessment becomes like, there was something in this plate that didn't speak right to me. And then you got to get into that self-analysis. And food diaries are a great way to do this. Just writing down what you ate, how did you feel afterwards. That personal assessment is really wonderful to do. And people don't do that, and they really need to.
Yeah, it's interesting. When it comes to intuition too, we tend to suppress that. I mean, we pick up like we're energetic, sending, beings and receiving beings, right? And so I think for some reason humans in 21st century would tend to reject that. And then also our feelings, we tend to ignore that. But going back to the food diary, I think that's really important. And talking about the taste of food, a lot of folks are focused on macros. As long as they get in there enough fat to stay in ketosis or enough, carbs to have a nice pre-workout meal, then they had a good meal, irrespective of the taste. Mm-hmm. But in your YouTube video, you say taste trumps everything. It does. Nutrition.
It does trump nutrition. That's what the food scientists are basing all of the bad things with. It's just trumping science. Okay, and they know how to manipulate the science pretty well.
Yeah.
To make things taste great, that you crave it. I had an interesting aha moment today.
Okay.
I was talking to a patient, and many patients that are overweight and having weight loss problems, from the functional medicine perspective that we take here, we do gastrointestinal evaluations, and I actually use a test known as a urinary organic acids test. I tell patients it analyzes your metabolism and everything that's in you. And they're like, really? I'm like, yes. And those practitioners that are listening will understand when they get markers for yeast or fungus, I know that they must have some dysbiosis or imbalance in their intestinal tract based on yeast.
Right.
And the corollary question is always, do you crave sugars and do you crave carbohydrates? And it's like an aha moment because so much of the blame has been put on them, and I'm like, no, maybe not. Maybe something inside you is craving this nutrient,
right?
And it may not be you yourself, and that's like a releasing factor for people.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe I'm not just the overweight person that can't exercise any self-control. It's not about that. Science has taken us to a whole new level in understanding the gut microbiome and how that actually affects our eating behaviors, which is really powerful stuff. I even noticed myself, there's certain times that I'll get, not cravings for sugars or carbohydrates, but I'll just really enjoy something. Like I'll go on a salmon binge for a week or something like that. And it's like, why am I doing this? There's no real rational reason for this, but maybe my body needs something at that point. So that instinct that you talk about, we don't pay much attention to that.
For some reason it's suppressed or it's not taught. I don't know what it is. It's interesting, but we talked about the mind-body aspect of health, and here we are. You do a lot of Tai Chi and Qigong and things to help people increase that parasympathetic aspect that you discussed. And I've noticed through my own meditation practice that the more I meditate and the more comfortable I get with that, my intuition is stronger and I trust it more. So I think it's all connected in a sense. I know it's that self-discovery.
Yes.
I think we should all realize that we're always learning and growing as people, and we should be doing that our entire lives, right?
Yeah, and it's not an approach that has been taught very often in the Western medicine model. It's coming more to the forefront now, which I think is really powerful, because once you can give a patient tools to work with at home that don't cost any money, they don't have any side effects, you teach them how to breathe. Our instructor here has a great thing, he calls it the red light breathing method.
Yeah.
Every time, patients are stopped at a red light, he teaches them how to do 4 square breath breathing.
Oh, wow.
And it's just something simple that people can do, and they adopt it, and they come back, and they're like, yeah, I'm not ready to flip someone the bird because I'm so aggravated. I'm just sitting there breathing.
Wow.
And it can be in lines, it can be anything. And you and I talked about the work of the heart math people and whatnot, and that's absolutely wonderful and crucial, because I think the power of that work can change the whole dynamic of the world in terms of violence and all the nasty things that we see going on all the time. If we just got to the point where we can teach people to just appreciate their own bodies and learn how to care for it, love it, and be kinder to themselves and others. It's really, really powerful.
Yeah, great points right there. I think one of the things I learned from Bob Rukowski, who's a past guest, was just taking a news fast, meaning he doesn't even check news on Facebook, on Twitter, no TV in the house. I mean, if it's TV, it's a sporting event or something like the Olympics, along those lines. And, I knew that, but then having heard him say that, I wouldn't check that random violent thing that would come on the news, just recently, like a news reporter shot another news reporter. I heard about that. I'm like, I don't even want to Google that and see that's just bad stuff.
Yes.
So I think eliminating that is really important, but also, like we talked about at dinner, having purpose. Knowing where you're going in life and why are you here? And you talked about this, I think it was a Thomas Edison quote, remind me in your TED Talk.
No, I think it's Mark Twain.
Okay.
Mark Twain said, the 2 most important days of your life are the day that you're born and the day you figure out why. Amazing stuff. It took me until age 50 to figure that out. I had figured some of it out, but really get to the point that really strikes up the fire in my belly every day to keep pursuing and doing this work that I know is really so beneficial to people. And I'm grateful that I was given that opportunity to do that. But with every opportunity comes hard work.
Sure.
To whom much is given, much is expected. And it is a place of really responsibility, because there's a lot of nonsense out in science, and you can twist any scientific study to how you want it to look.
Right.
I'm not a numbers man. I'm not very good at that. I hate p-values. I hate all that stuff. I like real stuff, okay? Real stuff. And people might argue with me, well, that's real. That's real because you've made it real, okay? And I don't want to wait till somebody has to show me a statistical significance to what I'm doing. This is not some fluff stuff. I mean, I do measure biomarkers. I do see things that change in people. I see people's weight drop. I see a bright light in their eyes again. I don't need a scientific study to tell me about that. And I think that's a message that you need to get out to the public, and to other professionals, and to possibly the government and insurance companies, we don't have time. And that's the call to action that I put at the end of my TED Talk. We don't have a lot of time. We've got to start implementing and modifying things as we learn about them and improve them. It's a continual improvement process. I'm not the same doctor I was 5 years ago.
Right.
I'm not going to be the same doctor 10 years from now. But that personal learning ability and ability to want to help people, truly help people, and not only help people, but take it a step further and help the planet. Because as we talked in our conversation at dinner, if we're not going to take care of the planet, all this nice stuff that I'm doing down here is moot. It really becomes like a null and void. And I personally have taken it to the deepest level that I can, and now I've become involved with our local farmers market. Every week, we get, we highlight a vegetable there. We provide recipes to our community here. We go and support what they're doing locally here. And then I've been working with a Spence Farm Foundation, which is a nonprofit. They have a farm here in Illinois, and they're raising things in a sustainable fashion with looking at the soil, looking at the dynamics of, even treating their animals the right way. I mean, it's such an enlightening experience for me to go to that farm and actually connect back to the roots of where we need to be. Because people are disassociated from food.
Yeah.
They see it all nice in the stores and whatnot. I don't know where it came from.
You bring up a really good point, Dr. John, because I think, the further that people are removed from the food process, whether it's the cooking process or the growing process, or I would say that the decision-making becomes kind of warped. It's easier to fall into the processed food gap, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, but the first time we ordered half of a grass-fed cow, I got an email from the farmer that said we put the cow down. To me, I was like, oh my goodness, this cow, we see cows all the, driving, when we're on the country roads and so forth, and it really made me feel bad. So I eat less meat because I, feel bad for that animal. So I think, that's a micro example of different things. And so any tips or any stories you can share for patients getting involved in the farmer's market or growing their own vegetables, any aha moments or breakthroughs besides, like you mentioned, how you're involved in the farmer's market, things that people can do?
I first of all, go to their farmers markets.
Yeah.
Start asking questions. Every time you purchase something, be sure you look either at their website or call the farm itself and ask them about their farming principles. See if you can get a tour out there. Okay. I drive to a little past Kankakee every year. We work with the Dickman's Farms. They raise chickens and turkeys. And I like a fresh turkey for our Thanksgiving celebrations. There's nothing on the planet that tastes quite as delicious as that. And yes, you can have the sort of negative, sort of guilty feeling that an animal was sacrificed for this, but in essence, we've been doing that since the caveman was out here.
Sure.
At least I don't have to do the killing part. Yeah. And if they do it in a humane, respectful fashion, I don't have any problem with that.
Right.
But I myself don't consume a lot of animal proteins for that reason. Because I don't crave it, but I enjoy it once in a while. Yeah. I call them celebratory foods, and that's the only time that I generally use them. One of the aha moments for me was I had a friend that his brother lived up in Alaska. So I was able to go to Alaska fishing for like 10 years in a row. Wow. And being out in the ocean, being with nature itself, and putting that pole in the ocean and catching your own salmon or your own halibut and seeing the struggle sometimes that occurs with that, and being tired from that whole process after the day was done. I mean, the day wasn't done after you caught it. You had to, break it down, freeze it, prepare it, whatnot. It's exhausting. You really learn the benefits of food when you get to that point. To get to that point of the basics. So again, it gets to the point of being grateful. I'm grateful for my friend Randy Hartnell at Vital Choice Seafood. And he was an Alaskan seafood fisherman. He understands the whole process. I think that's the point that you want to get people to. They have to understand the whole process. They don't have to go through the whole process themselves, but appreciate. We should appreciate farm workers that harvest. I mean, it's a lot of work harvesting, okay? And, are those people getting decent wages? Are we treating them the right way? These are important questions that we have to ask as a society. One of the points I like to make is, I can't get healthy at your expense. I shouldn't. Okay, and therefore, it requires me to actually do the research and find out which are the companies that are looking to treat their workers correctly, to do the best they can with what they have. I'm not asking people to be perfect either. This is not a perfect place. Okay? But we have to move in the direction where we're thinking about those things, because we really do want a planet and an earth available for our children and our children's children. Those are the ultimate questions. That's where the nourishment begins. And thinking about that really becomes important for me, as well as like-minded people in the wellness sphere.
Yeah, I think it's huge for everyone. And driving your big car, I mean, there's nothing wrong with big cars, to Costco and loading up on all this food. And if it goes to waste, throw it away. There's more of where that came from. I think a lot of people fall into that mentality because we're so far removed from this process.
Yes. And because it's less costly, it's less painful. If it were more costly, it would be more painful to throw that away, wouldn't it be? Right. So this higher volume, higher consumption, I was blessed to actually visit Italy twice. And part of the daily routine was to go to the local market and purchase your food for the day. I mean, that is really eye-opening and really teaches you about, okay, what do I need today? And, I often tell people, well, in the Lord's Prayer, it says, give us our daily's bread. It doesn't tell me, give me 10 days worth of bread or 50 million pieces of bread. It gives just what I need today. And we don't live that way. And that gets back to this mindful piece. Yeah. We're always living in the future. We're always living in the past. Nobody pays attention to the present. And we have to be focused on the present moment. If we don't get that, I don't care what you eat, I don't care how much you move, it actually gets nullified.
Right. And living in the present means that you're eating seasonally.
Yes, which is a lot of fun. It's challenging, okay? Yeah. I mean, you can't get tomatoes in the dead of winter in Chicago. So either you learn about canning, which we've done canning classes here in the center and teach people that basic skill again. Cool. Or, you buy a sustainable, tomato in something that you can reuse in the wintertime. It's probably one of the few things that I buy in cans are tomatoes and beans. Again, a lot of times because I don't have the time to actually put them in the slow cooker, rinse them off, and I need something quick. Yeah. Okay. And every choice has risks and benefits to it. And you can't become so incapacitated that the choices become so mind-boggling that you don't do anything. Okay? If it's healthier to eat beans and you can't make them from scratch, buy a good can of beans, period. Okay? We get so wound up into all of these nuances that we don't do the basics well.
Right.
We got to do the basics well.
Mm-hmm. And along those lines, not to deviate from that, but there's some research showing, I think, that canned tomatoes actually, for some reason, the lycopene content is higher. I have read that. So not that we would generally tell people, like, if it comes in a box, bag, or a can, don't eat it.
Right.
But there are some caveats and exceptions to that.
Absolutely. And, as much as I like the movement toward BPA-free, the science is coming out about the replacement for the BPA is just as alarming. So that's why I'm like, can you get back to canning it yourself in glass? That would be the best way to do it. The least inert substance that we have is glass, and why can't we get back to that?
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to, breaks and all that sort of stuff. So from a massive
I know.
volume, people, don't like that. But Dr. John, I think it would be helpful for everyone to go back to your story and, going back to the purpose, where you said the two most important days are the day that you were born and the day you realize why you're here. I guess how long, you said this occurred for you in your 50s. It must have been a slow progression, right? These thoughts where you want to get out of the traditional medical model that you're doing to form this clinic. Looking back on this in hindsight, would you have jumped into this sooner if you would have trusted your intuition? Are there any, tips for people that really want to do something larger than themselves? Any tips there?
Don't fear it.
Okay.
The biggest impediment, I think, to anyone making, and I have people across the spectrum, doctors that have been in practice, young doctors getting out of residency that want to do this, they're fearful. They are so fearful that this is not going to work. I'm here to tell them it works. It works, and it works well. Now, there's some nuances about it that are difficult. I don't really believe the insurance companies have stepped up to the plate to make it easier for people like myself in this world of functional medicine and lifestyle medicine to do what they need to do. They've tied our hands too much. That needs to end. And I don't know how you create that silent revolution, but we need to. We really need to. But don't fear it. Go for it. Because you've invested so much time, whether you're a doctor, nurse, nutritionist, whatever, you can take it to a level where you get so much personal satisfaction that whatever the pain level is outside of that, you can still do it. Because you have something, you have a purpose, you have a reason to get up every day and do this.
Love it.
That is the sustaining grace of some of this pain. But hopefully as more people join this movement, join the revolution, okay? And it is really a revolution.
Sure.
It's as I say, it's a revolution in thought, but also a renaissance of good motives. If your motives are taking you in the right place, you never have anything to fear or worry about.
Right.
Because you're good with yourself and you're good with the people around you. And I don't lack for having that sense of satisfaction.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Tony Robbins talks about that. If you ever are fearful about doing something, your goal is not big enough. Because like your goal, you wake up every day and you jumped out of the safety net of your conventional medical practice to make this practice so you could help more people that you weren't able to help in your current, the past situation.
Right.
And so you made that goal bigger than yourself, which is pretty powerful stuff.
And I would say I didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater either. I still know much of traditional medicine, and that's powerful when it needs to happen.
Sure.
If you have a sick gallbladder or a sick appendix, I have to be knowledgeable enough and skillful enough to say, I'm sorry, nutrition is not going to handle this problem. You really do need a surgical intervention. This is an acute medical problem. So I think we have to find that place where both the tremendous strides we've made in advancements in medicine and technology can complement the basics that we still need to actually revive and bring to the same level of importance and respect that the other half has gotten. And actually compensate healthcare protectors in that realm for the time that they're really spending with people, because it is about an education.
Right.
It's empowering these people. And you know what? Their economic problems will go away. Because if you got 80% of the population healthy, you can spend whatever you want on the 20% that just either the way life befell them or whatever, school of hard knocks, whatever their situation is, or the unwillingness to change, you could still benevolently take care of them. But when 80% think, well, I can do whatever I want to do, and then Dr. X is going to fix that, that's a model that's not working, and that needs a change. Mm-hmm. And it is changing. I think I see in my own practice. As I told you over dinner, we have a long waiting list, people trying to get in here. And I think it's because of me personally. I think it's what this practice offers them.
Right.
It's a viable option for them to empower their lives and take control of their lives.
Yeah.
For those that want to do that.
Yeah, I think we're at the precipice of a new shift in thinking. People realize that. I think people are sick of feeling unhealthy. And they
Yes.
realize the connection between poor food choices and inactivity and modern conveniences are causing them to be unhealthy. And I really thank social media for that. I think we should be grateful for things like Instagram and Facebook, because this is how we spread these messages wide and far.
On a low budget.
Right, yeah.
Because otherwise, to get that message out, it'd cost you millions of dollars to do that, and you couldn't do that. You couldn't do that way. But we can't get so wound up in that people can suddenly become voyeuristic about that. They watch it, they like to see it, but they don't apply it to anything for themselves. And I used to do this by watching the Food Network. When I was in this food sort of nirvana, I could get lost in watching 2 hours, 3 hours of the Food Network, because it was just so perfect and everything was so beautiful and everything comes out. You never got to taste anything, you never got to smell anything. And again, I'm not putting down the Food Network. There's a lot of good chefs on there. But it's we got to go do some of this ourselves now. We got to try this ourselves. Take action.
Yeah.
Take that into your own and look at that recipe and say, well, I don't have this and this and that, but I think I can make this work with maybe these ingredients, because this is what I have in my kitchen right now, and that's what I've done. I mean, most recipes are somebody's other person's recipe revised and improvised.
Right.
Okay, and so that's the beauty of it.
It's pretty amazing. Along those lines, a couple of finishing questions that we ask every guest on the show, Dr. John, is if there was one herb, nutrient, or botanical, or whole food substance you just could not live without, what would you say?
Whoa. There's so many of them. There's so many of them. But I personally, one of them is going to be the omega-3s. Top at my list. Okay, just an improvement in overall health, just understanding how those omega fatty acids help our cell membranes, and if you help every cell membrane in your body, how fantastic that is. And when you empower your brain to do better things, that's super. And the other one I would say was the real aha for me, because I myself saw the difference. I used to suffer from seasonal affective disorder. Come end of Christmas season to March, I was just every day was a struggle to push to get up. And I couldn't figure out why. I just there's something wrong with me. Then I started, this was 10 years ago. There wasn't much popularity about vitamin D 10 years ago. So this one little study about, I think it was in a subtropical area where people got less viral illnesses, they felt better, and they were attributing it to vitamin D levels. And then I started at that point supplementing myself with vitamin D, and it's whoa!
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell the difference. I mean, I can see the differences in the seasons, but mentally, emotionally, physical strength and performance, I'm no different than I am in the winter than I am in the summer now. And I can only attribute that to that one nutrient, vitamin D. And I don't think people pay I mean, I'm surprised. There are people that come into this practice that have vitamin D's in the single digit. Single digit. I think the lowest on record I have is a 7.
Wow.
I can't imagine, what that life was like. But I've seen the changes that happens when you optimize those levels. And people forget this. They see normal levels on lab test results, but that's based on a sick American population. One of the important things for people to learn is the difference between what's normal and what's optimal.
Right.
So that's where I think functional medicine practitioners really come into the forefront and actually say, yes, it's good to be in that normal range, but let's try to get you to optimal. Let's try to optimize all of your nutrients so that you can live the healthiest, best life that you can.
Yeah. Great advice. It's amazing. I mean, even in Colorado, where I worked with a physician there from 2007 to 2011, and same thing. I mean, Colorado gets 370 days a year. A lot of people ski and hike and bike, and the prevalence of vitamin D deficiency was rampant. Same in even Tucson, Arizona. There's some publications. So,
yeah, well, you can even, I mean, I've got snowbirds that go to Florida for at least 4 or 5 months out of the year.
yeah.
They're not spending time outside either. I mean, even though they live,
Right.
even they live in the Sunshine State for those periods of time, they still need vitamin D supplementation. So that's been revolutionary, I think in medicine in general. And I think it was the Institute of Medicine actually woke up and actually changed some of their recommendations. They said, well, maybe we didn't hit the mark right on the first time. You know, we need to
Wasn't enough.
we need to up it a little bit. Again, you got to listen to your body, find out what works for you. Not every person is the same. And if I could close with one thing, where I think medicine is going is a personalized approach. And I think the realm which Jeff Bland is introducing now of genomics, that Ben Lynch has done so much powerful work on understanding, some of the nuances of the MTHFR and all of these powerful things. I see the day in which someone will get their genomic profile, will come to a doctor who is more integrative, that will understand how to put the genetics, the nutrition, the physical activity, and then more importantly, which trumps it all, the mind-body interaction that can change the genes. And there it is. It's the future of medicine. And Dean Ornish, God bless him, he's done this work. He showed it. He's shown it scientifically that you can change gene expression on the basis of meditation and food. I mean, he did the food things with his prostate cancer studies. I mean, I don't need a brick wall to fall on me to actually say this is powerful stuff.
Right.
We just have to get it out there to people, to the mainstream, to start believing it. Don't fear it. People fear it like, oh, you're trying to pull a fast one on them. This is not fast ones. This is science that's out there, okay? Real scientific study from, I think, credible resources.
Yeah.
And that's the future of medicine. Will we get there? I hope so. I hope I see it in my lifetime. I mean, I'm starting there already. I mean, I'm going to 23andMe now as a resource to at least start getting some of their SNPs. I tell patients, I don't know what to do about all of them, but the important ones we can start focusing on, especially methylation. I mean, that is huge, 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 huge.
Yeah, that's a big point. And so one of the questions we also follow up that nutrient question is with your morning routine. And we talked about meditation and how meditation changes gene expression and gut function and all that. We know the morning's a great time to meditate. So what's your morning routine, Dr. John?
Good question. As I told you over dinner, trying to build this business has really scrappled my morning routines. And I wasn't even doing the basics well in terms of sleep. I was surviving on 5 to 6 hours of sleep per night. And I started feeling bad. I started gaining weight again. And I'm here. I'm evidence that if you don't follow the basics, things will not go well for you. So my commitment came January 2015 to make sure that I start my mornings out correctly because I finished my days correctly. And this is a key point that people don't get. If you don't finish your day correctly and get the proper amount of sleep, Yeah, meditation may still help you when you get up, but you've lost that deficit of sleep, and all the studies say you can't. It takes a long time to repair that. So getting a good night's rest, 7 to 8 hours in a comfortable room, shutting off media, light sources, everything to get a good night's sleep is probably the most powerful thing that I've done to begin my mornings. I try to avoid the computer in the morning, and I enjoy my drive to work. I absolutely enjoy I'm blessed with a super commute through wooded areas, lakes, things in nature that I can just park my vehicle and spend a few minutes in silence before I begin my day. And that's my meditation. My meditation also occurs in this kitchen.
Yeah.
Like tomorrow, I'll be meditating, preparing a meal for our next roadmap group that's coming in through tomorrow night. And we have a wonderful, every week we have a wonderful small meal, small bite, healthy recipe that they can take home and sort of recapitulate.
That's amazing. So I think that's a great finishing point. So if people want to learn more about your work and maybe visit your office and go to the website, what are some online resources, and what can people expect if they do go through one of these 6-month programs or 6 weeks?
6-week programs. Well, that 6-week program that we're running now, that's our soiree into behavioral change. We have a well coach here, trained through Harvard's program, and she's phenomenal. And we spend 6 weeks looking at all of the possible obstacles of why you don't want to change your life. Until you do that introspection, I can try to teach it to you, but I don't think that that's going to happen. Okay, it doesn't happen in an office visit. You do need time to reflect on that. And last week we passed out a journal for each of them. It's a gratitude journal to start writing and reflecting and being more reflective about their lives. So that's part of what we try to get people, to get them in the mindset of understanding. Then when they go upstairs to our regular, quote-unquote, regular practice, they understand the conversation. The conversations are different. They're more of the mindset of the coach. I'm no longer just a doctor, I'm also the coach. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, Mike, how likely, are you going to be able to do this tomorrow? Right. And if they're giving me a likelihood under 5 or 6, I'm like, maybe we need to redefine this goal. I mean, this is not a goal for you right now.
Sure.
So that kind of conversation changes the dynamic in the office. And no sense setting people up for unreasonable goals. That's craziness. Meet them where they're at, establish something that they can achieve, and then move on. So that's one resource. Other resources that I have is our newsletter. Sends out things that are happening here all the time. If you're local, that's a great resource for you. But one of my greatest teaching sites is actually our Facebook page. Every day there's at least 3 or 4 posts on there that has to do something with eating correctly, moving more, or the mind-body interaction. So it's a great resource, little bits. They don't have to get tied up into it a long time. And they come from great resources out in the internet as well. So bringing culling information for people is part of my job in addition, because there's a lot out there. I don't put anything there that I don't find trustworthy. I put things I think that have value that actually are based in science, or at least good common sense.
Right, that's fantastic. And I want to direct people to your TED Talks. We'll
Yes.
put that in the show notes below here at highintensityhealth.com/drprincipe. And
That's actually housed on our website.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so it's called TEDx 2012, a recipe for a healthier America. They can click into that and actually find that there.
That's great. Yeah, there's a lot of nuggets there that I think people will enjoy. So,
yes.
Really enjoyed having dinner with you and this conversation, and keep up the great work. And
thank you.
And, the novel work that you're doing and changing people's lives. I think it's making a big impact. So really appreciate what you're doing.
And we appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
I listen to what you've had on your show. I respect many of the guests that you've had there. It really is a community of people that really want to change the face of healthcare, to really be what it's supposed to be, health,
Yeah.
instead of sickness medicine.
Yeah. Have a good night.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.